Hello there, I'm Mouldie and welcome back to the long-awaited part 2 of building the new 2026 January wave of Minecraft sets in a micro form. You might have seen there's a new micro set. Looks great. We did look over all of these sets in part 1 and we also built the first two, which was the Steve's Taiga adventure and the chicken farm. In fact, I still have both of these sets here built. I think between you and me, they're going to be hard to beat. They turned out really well. But something about the two sets we're doing today, the Pal Garden and the Zombie Dungeon, is they're a lot bigger than these. These take up an 8x8 and, well, if we were to upscale a 3x3, that'd be like a 12x12. I don't know if the chicken farm is actually that big, but they take up quite small base plates. Whereas just looking at the Pal Garden, I can already see that is at least 16 studs wide. Maybe it's about a 16x16. It's only a 4x4, but what neither of these sets have too much of in the width, in the depth, they definitely make up for in height. Same with the Zombie Dungeon. It's probably about a 16x12, maybe even a 4x3, but rather than it just being one level with maybe a little build on top, we have 3 levels to this build. We have a dungeon, we have a cave, and then we have the sandy surface, which has a really nice cactus, giving it an extra few blocks. This one's going to be so fun to build. But we're actually going to start with the Pal Garden. Last time I spoke about the Creek Inn and said I would love to build my own version of the Creek Inn, but I don't own those parts used for the legs. I'd love to build a Creek Inn that, you know, doesn't use the face print, but I don't own that element in the legs. I might not own the single 1x2 brackets. However, over here, I have basically a whole drawer full of the double ones. Our Creek Inn does not need to be walking around. It just needs to be standing menacingly, and this will do the job. Now that we have the base of the Creek Inn, it should be fairly straightforward to build this up. For instance, the legs are just 1x1 sand green tiles, which I don't know if I have 1x1s, but we're using a 1x2. We can get away with that. And I know I definitely have some of those 1x3 reverse tiles for the inverted tiles for the back of the leg from the Dark Trooper attack playset that we got 2 of to increase the amount of Dark Troopers Luke had to cut through in Season 2 of Mando, and also to mock out a bigger scene. So let's empty all of them here. We only need the 2 of them. We'll push the rest aside. Both of these would go on the individual legs, but what they're going to do to our build is allow the feet to connect to the legs. We don't have that extra 1 stud in the middle holding together the 2 different tiles. So we're going to fill that in with either a 1x2 grey plate, or we could extend the 1x1 grey clips used to connect the legs to the torso to 1x2 instead. But the only thing with that is you do get a sneak peek of the side of the leg of the Creek Inn, and there is that extra grey stud on top. So maybe we will go with a 1x2. Are those grills light grey or dark grey? Because we seem to have quite a dark grey colour scheme, but there are little bits of light grey. Here are the rest of the elements we will need for the legs, and a reminder, this 1x2 is just because I don't own either of the 1x2 bracket plates on the bottom. But we can still connect our clips as if these legs were separate and make sure we've got quite a clear gap between the front. I kind of do want to replace that 1x2 tile with the 1x1s. It feels odd not building it the same way. I'll have a little look once I finish to see if I actually own any 1x1s. Otherwise, it's going to be pretty hard to replace. The torso is definitely built on a 1x2, or is that 2 1x1 bar? No, it's a 1x2 light bluish grey, and then we have some sand green underneath, maybe a sand green 1x1, which will hold the brackets for the arms, and also some sort of connection for the head, which I'm not sure what the Creek Inn uses. We don't have a 360 for this set. Usually that's where all these secrets are spilled. And there is that odd stud in the middle, which matches up to how the Creek Inn is built in Minecraft. I might not have played the game yet, but I've seen and heard a lot about this new mob. Hold on a second. Is that head built wonky to one side? The left arm doesn't seem like it's held on by any sort of bracket. It seems like it's held on by a round 1x1 brick, which would only fit if we used a snot brick in the top of the Creek Inn. Is this going to work? To get the stud on top of the head, that would mean we also need to use a few different stud techniques, because that snot brick would be placed likely on its side. Oh no, I think I'm overcomplicating it. Let's go grab that bar hinge so we can start building off the torso, and we'll work out the head connection later. For the main section of the body, the main chunk, we've got the hinge bar right here. And then the corner tile just hangs over the top, and there's definitely some sort of snot brick. There's a brick that sticks out the top, so the snot brick would have to be upside down. Maybe it's a bracket. Maybe it's not a brick. Maybe it's a bracket instead, because what they could do is add some frying pan studs behind the arms, and that would hold on both the arms with one of those 1x1 studs with a hole in the middle, and also the 1x3 or 1x3 plate, the 1x3 dark bluish grey rounded off plates have another hole in the stud, and the bar would go all the way through. It would be a really, really secure connection, and I can definitely see the Minecraft developers add in something like that. The set designers, not the developers. For our modified version of the arms, we're going to switch up the 1x3 rounded plates with 1x2s, which are so much more common and still work just perfectly for this. And then we finally get to use our 1x2s with the clip. We finally get to squeeze these into the set. And by assembling them back to back, we're going to want to refer to the images to remember that each arm will have a stud in a different location. I assume this is how the creaking is built, not symmetrical, which just makes it a little more creepier, considering everything in Minecraft is pretty symmetrical, or at least follows a similar pattern all the way across, even some of the other mobs. So we've got a stud on high, a stud on low. The low stud is the left arm, the high stud is the right, placed on the right and the left, which is the opposite way, but that's because the creaking's facing us. Now let's find that bracket and try to get something to work for the head. If that's a bracket, I definitely think they've used some sort of frying pan stud. You can't see any inclination of a brick of any sort of bracket, even like the 1x2 bricks that I absolutely love. And I assume they've secured this in with a slope on the back. Everything in Lego is secured with a slope on the back, but if they've gone and used a frying pan stud instead, they'd be able to squeeze in something like a curved inverted 2x2 piece. One of these elements that would squeeze on the back, or even just an inverted 2x2 plate, which, good thing we kept the bag out. I'm going to see if I have one in grey. I have one in dark grey. I think that looks even better than light bluish grey. Here are the elements that we'll need for the next section of the build, and I've realised that if we've got the bracket, this is a 1x1 over the top bracket, squeezed on the side here, we're leaving a gap on the other side of the build, which would be alright to fill with a 1x1 in sand green, in light bluish grey, dark bluish grey. Go for any colour you've got an abundance of, really. Or we can swap out this 1x1 we used earlier, get rid of that, and use a 1x2, which would strengthen the connection between the builds, because then we've got some verticality here. Other than the tile on front, it just secures it that bit more. So I'm going to switch that up for a 1x2 and install the frying pan studs from behind. And I think I know exactly what piece Lego have gone with, if not at least the shape of it, because I mentioned these rounded off 2x2 inverted slopey tiles, and from the front you can see you can't see them. You can't see them over the left shoulder, whereas in the image of the 4 minifigures lining up, zoom in, analyze that left shoulder, you can see there's a little gap where they probably have used a frying pan stud rather than the 1x1 round brick we first thought. I don't know how they've got the stud to look like that in the other image. And then, oh wait, what if that's just the grey frying pan stud? I've used dark grey. I think Lego might use light grey, and that's what's given it the light grey brick look. And then we've got a corner of a plate, which tells us that there is indeed another plate behind. I also feel like on the right shoulder we do see a dark grey something, which I assume was the frying pan stud. It would be hidden by the stud. So this is the dark grey plate or inverted tile hanging out the back. I also had a flat 2x2 round tile. This one doesn't have the warped edges. I think this come in the Republic gunship, and again you can't see it over the corner. But when I swap this out for the inverted tile or a 2x2 plate, inverted tiles aren't common, They just give it the flush look on the back, just like we've got with the 1x3 tiles. Alternatively, 1x3 tiles, if you didn't pick up the Dark Trooper attack or don't own them, switch them out for 1x3 plates. No one's going to be looking at the back. But now you can see we've got that little corner over the left shoulder and also a little more dark grey on the right. If we put on the right arm, which slots all the way in, makes that middle look like a snot brick. This is definitely how LEGO have worked it. We also get that dark grey from the plate at the back, just shining through over the right shoulder. And now that the both arms are connected, we can get rid of these plates and start work on the head, which is what I want to switch up. The reason we're building the creaking is so I can switch up the head, and then we'll get on to making this in micro scale and the rest of the video that I have spent the last 40 minutes distracting myself with a really cool creaking build. But whereas LEGO have used a 1x2 printed tile, I'm going to swap all of those out for 1x1 orange plates. Translucent orange plates. You could even go one step deeper and paint 3 sides of a 1x1 orange plate, translucent orange plate that is, to make it look that much more accurate. Maybe a dark grey would go well around them, block it out at the other 3 angles, but really give those orange eyes some menacing, creepy depth, and potentially even add some lights. These are all the plates and jumpers and tiles and elements we're going to need for the head of the creaking. No more brackets, you'll be happy to hear, because I mean, I do have a whole drawer full of brackets. Take a look at that. There's all my over brackets, no, under brackets and over brackets, as well as all the ones used in MOCs sets. I've used a lot of them recently, but only recently have they been common. And if you haven't picked up a lot of sets this year, I've spent a lot of money on LEGO. I will happily admit that. You might not have a ton of brackets, so we're steering away from brackets this time, and instead just equipping our translucent orange plates either side of both of these jumpers, and that is the same height as the creaking head. But because we don't want to keep that orange head on top, I'm going to add 1 extra tile just to make the creaking head look a bit more like it does in Minecraft. The eyes aren't covering the entire thing. Like I said, if you could paint over the sides and back of the head, that would make it look 10 times better. And if you wanted to go one step further, you could replace the 1x1s with round studs with a hole in the middle, drill through both of those jumpers, and just like that, get the eyes to light up. No chance you're fitting a smart brick in here. I don't even know what sound the creakings make. I assume it's something like a weeping angel. That sounds about right. But I think getting this lit up would look awesome. Again, colouring in the sides so you're not getting that orange glow the whole way around. Maybe even LEGO should have done this and used a translucent sticker so that you could see through to the actual brick eyes. It would have been a lot of printing, but it's not unlike them to print excessive amounts of bricks in Minecraft. They have a little printing on the turtle eggs, and I think they could have done the same printing for all 3 eyes. They would have wanted to make it look as accurate as they can. The 1x2 printed plate in the set is the best LEGO could have done, but if they wanted to be a bit extra and go out of their way, I think I'm onto something here. Anyway, this is the big version of the creaking, which stands at least 3, if not 4 bricks tall. So the easiest way to build this in minifigure scale, which to bring back Steve from his Taiga adventure, Steve is 3 plates tall. We're looking for about, because it's 3 to 4 blocks, we're looking for about 4.5 to 6. I'm going to cut it in the middle and say 5, and to get the 5 bricks tall, I want to use a dark bluish grey brick, a 1x1 orange translucent plate, and then a dark bluish grey plate on top. We're keeping the studs. It's LEGO, we've got to have some studs. I think the tiny creaking is adorable next to the other one. I'm gonna say it, it's so tiny. It looks like a baby creaking. I think we might have to keep this one to... How are creaking made? Because if they can't move when looked at, is it the same fault as a weeping angel? If a creaking sees another creaking, I assume Minecraft logic, they're both just going to charge at you when you're not looking. Maybe they can see each other. But weeping angels, if they look upon themselves, that is their one curse. They're stuck in the stone-like shape, which Creakins seem to be, I wonder if you attack them, they just come charging at you anyway. Don't care that you see them at that point. But we've got the iconic eyes. We could have added some sand green in the middle, but we want to make this look like a character, which is why I've gone towards that 1x1 brick. Last time, with the fox with the chicken, we used some plates, and I think using the round studs does help for characters, because it's like a pin on the map. And I might even change up the foxes eventually to round 1x1 orange plates rather than the square ones, but we've got the brick, so we know it's a character. We've already seen the creeper. The skeleton is the same deal as the creeper, 1x1 brick. And for the character that is in a black Mothman like skin with 2 red eyes, let's see if we can add some detailed red eyes using a whiteboard pen. I'm not even sure it's gonna show up on the black brick. I mean, it's there, I can see it. I would be very surprised if it's coming across on the camera. Maybe if I shine it in the light a little bit, you'll see that they are there. But on the back of this brick, it stands out a little more than the others. We do have the Elytra. Electro is a Spider-Man villain. The Elytra, the wings that allow you to fly with the rockets. Ton of fun in the game. Had to include them as they were included in the character, though you'll notice I left out the skeleton armor because, again, stacking up the plates just didn't look right for a skeleton. So all the skeletons and most of the mobs in these micro sets are going to be naked. But now it's time to work on the actual base of the set. As I said, this is a 16 by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 set, but it is missing out about 2 studs. Towards the end of this, I would love to add all 6 of the smaller sets onto the bigger set. So I'm gonna add it to a 4x4, given the fact it's gonna be placed on, I think they're 6x6 originally. We're gonna have to build out some of these sets, but let's get the detail of that tree. We've got 2 layers to the ground, and I do wanna mimic that into this set because the others so far have had quite flat bases. So I'm gonna start off with a gray 4x4 and add some sand green detailing on top. It's mixed very well in the set, the grey's trailing up to the tree, but I feel like a 6x6 in sand green underneath this is gonna complement this really well. Whereas we're scaling this up by about 4, and a lot of the bricks have only got like 3 studs or 2 studs. Yeah, they're 2 studs, they're a block wide. We get the choice whether we want to expand it by 2 more or to shrink it down. And I'm going to use a mixture. I'm going to shrink down this far side here and then expand the few studs up, because we do have one stud in there that is taking up that 4x4 space. But the others, I like the detail we've added here. We can get some flowers and weeds down at the bottom, and I don't know how we're going to represent them. We could just stick a massive weed down in the middle. I don't think that's going to do what we want. Also, as we're making micro Minecraft sets, I feel like I could move the camera in a bit more just so we really see the details of what I'm building. This set is not going to turn out massive. For every weed we have in the set, I'm going to place down a green flower. I don't know if I have any in a darker shade. Maybe that would complement the sand green well, but for now, we're just going to use the brighter green plants. And then for the white plants with the yellow top, we have the choice again between just white plants or yellow plants. I feel like because the actual plant themselves is yellow, we'll take the pieces straight from the set and place not 1 but 2 yellow plants down. It's a good thing we added that indent there so we can spread out the flowers a little bit. We also have another weed on top here right next to the campfire. I think I have 1x1s in this wooden color that we can add a flame to. The problem being they're gonna be 2 studs high. This element would work perfectly under the condition that it was 1 stud further recessed. So what I'm gonna do is take this piece off and replace it with 1x1s either side, or what we could even do, because I don't have a lot of anything borrowing 1x2s in sand green, or I only have a lot of 1x2s in sand green because my old minifigure display for my Star Wars minifigures was a memory box that comprised purely of sand green 1x2 plates because it was the cheapest plate on Lego.com's online pick-a-brick service at the time of me building the memory boxes. I had 2 of them, so you can imagine just how many of these 1x2 plates I have. And now that we've got our campfire recessed as much as the plants, which is about a block, we can fit a flame element inside. A few of you are going to be wondering why I didn't switch that up to a 1x1 plate that has a hole in the top. And that's because all flame elements have an extra little pin that goes inside hares, helmets. It will fit inside the Clone Trooper helmet hole. There you go. You can actually see the whole thing in focus now. And that needs an extra, it can't even be a stud. It can't even be a stud, but it does stop it from fitting into, well, how have I just done that? Oh, these flowers all have that extra little hole in them. You can see if you look through, each of these flowers has the hole, whereas a regular stud doesn't. But because this is a 1x2, we've got the space for that pin, or a 2-plate tool. It's 2 plates tall. We can now fit the fire on the inside. The tree is going to be quite a straightforward build. We have another flower under the tree. Wow. So many flowers. We have 3 flowers, 3 weeds, and a chest under the tree. We've already used a chest design on the Taiga, which is just 2 plates at an angle, completely legal. And there's plenty more where that element come from. In the nice gingerbread 8080 color, which, by the way, if any of you did order the gingerbread 8080 alongside us on that stream, when it came back in stock for the 2nd or 3rd time, mine's just been shipped, so hopefully yours isn't far behind. The chest goes right next to the campfire. We should be able to fit all our minifigures on this display as well. But now time for the tree, which takes up a 4x4 space. And that's just 1 brick for us. That makes it really easy. We're going up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 bricks before we get to the leaves. And there are a few, they look like honey-soaked leaves. I assume these are the hearts that power the creaking. I am well out of my depth here. And we have some vines on the outside as well. So similar to the tree that we built, again, referring back to the previous build so we can keep this all consistent, we have at least 1 brick to go up. And then if we can get a snot brick for those berries, and then another snot brick for the leaves, but the leaves need to come out a little more than before. We have an 8x8 layer. So that's definitely jumper worthy on top. I think this is going to work really well. We've got the base of the tree as this 1x1. Then the corner snot brick with the studs only on 2 sides. We could go with a 4x4, like a 4 stud. I keep just throwing numbers out there. We could go with a 4 studded snot brick, but the 2 studs are all we're going to need to find orange tiles to match. And they're the same ones used in the set. The orange 1x1 round tiles, 1 for the front, 1 for the side. And because we've added a brick below, this time we do have plenty of space for that chest under the tree. And finally, for the top of the tree, we tend to go with a snot brick with grey plates. We could do this, especially if we have sand green grills. Yes, we do! For the top of the tree, we've got a snot brick with all 4 studs around the side. We're only going to add a 1x1 plate to 2 sides. So wherever you add your first 1x1 plate, then add 2 more on the other side, just like so. That gives us space to add our green vines, which this grill piece works perfectly for. And then 2 1x2 plates on either side, sandwiching that. It's quite a big tree compared to our little 1x1, and we're trying to keep to a rough scale, but sometimes proportions do have to go a little bigger. On top, we're going to include a 2x2 jumper to add that extra layer, because at the minute we don't have a 2x2 jumper with the corners cut out. If you want to make it really accurate, you could cut out the corners. We only need the round stud on the inside, but we're trying not to defile any Lego bricks here. And finally, a 1x1 stud on top, adding this to the top of our display, trying not to break the chest. There we go. And here is the creaking in Minecraft Micro Scout, the Pale Garden set 21586. If you want a reference, there you go. check that out. Now we've just got to add our characters to the scene, and this time this should be fairly straightforward. We've got our mini Creakin standing next to the tree, lurking around, and maybe the character is completely unaware of the absolute monstrous carnage that is going to be behind. Or maybe in facing off to this monster, we'll put the character facing back to us, with their back to us, facing the Creakin, and sneaking up behind, we have a creeper we can put at a slight angle thanks to the plants, and a skeleton ready to attack. Honestly, I don't think this player stands much of a chance. If I was in this situation, forget about whatever's in that chest, diamonds or otherwise, it seems just to be bread. I'm running the other way and I'm getting the hell out of there. That's one set down, but in today's video we have just about enough time for the zombie dungeon. But first, time for a quick intermission. Hello there and welcome back, though if this is the middle of the video, I don't need to be saying that. Since I last recorded the first half, where we made the POW garden, I have found the two elements I wanted to add to the bottom of the Creaking, and they are just the sand green 1x1 tiles. But I found out the reason I have so many of these is the same reason I have so many of these oh wow, look how pink my hand looks in that. It's not pink, I haven't got any paint on it, but I have so many of these 1x2s because of the same memory boxes that I used to have, both light side and then I had a dark side one with the blue and the red base plate, which is what I then cut up for the minifigure display. There's a whole Mouldie canon contingency going on behind scenes here. If you could tie up all the videos into a timeline, little parts of my explanations into a timeline of Lego history of Master Mouldie, that would look awesome, but it'd also take up a few books. I have so many of these clips because I use these to hold the lightsabers and various weapons of the minifigures that were paired with in the box. We don't display with weapons now because so many minifigures use the same weapons, especially lightsabers. Please Lego, give us that unique lightsaber mold. But as we've got these two 1x1s, I might as well make the change because it does improve it greatly. The Creakin does need two separate legs so that it's able to sneak up on us when we're least expecting, when we're not looking. And there is my custom Creakin that will definitely be going in our custom Minecraft display. We at some point just need to get around to mocking out a tree, or probably even picking up the set, getting a few of these in the mock. The next setup that we will be shrinking down is the zombie dungeon. Again, looking at a 4x1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Oh wow. The whole thing is basically just 4x4. A little bit of lava on it. We're going to get our cheese slopes out for that for sure. And with the zombies being 2 blocks tall, each level looks to be about 3 blocks tall. So if a zombie is 1 brick tall, I think we'll be going for about 5 plates tall for each of the levels. It'd be really fun if we could get some of the play features in, but because of space restrictions, I'm not entirely convinced we'll be able to. Actually, come to think of it, there's a really neat way we could get this to work. It would first require us changing up the way that the camera is positioned, but also changing up the way we build our characters. Up to this point, we've had square bricks, and I said about switching up the foxes to round plates. And in this specific set, to get the play feature working, we are going to need to switch up the way we design characters, and instead of going with plates and bricks, instead get some round 1x1 studs. It'll all make sense, you just have to trust me on this and keep watching. So for each of the zombies in the set, we get 3 zombies, and there's also a slime. Hold on, do I have a translucent green stud? I have a lot of green, but I'm not seeing any translucent green. Maybe instead of translucent green, we can use a really bright green like this. Preferably, we would find a translucent green somewhere in here. But besides translucent dark green, that looks better than the bright green. There's our 1 slime. And as I was saying, before the slime rudely interrupted, we have 3 zombies in this set. So we've got our 3 trousers in the purple studs. We've also got our 3 tops, and one of the zombies is wearing enchanted. It just looks like a lighter purple trouser. I guess that is the enchanted color for Lego Minecraft. They're wearing enchanted armor of some sort, maybe enchanted iron, as it's a little bit lighter. And then one of the zombies has a helmet that is made of diamond. Same color that I've used for the torso, rather than adding any of these armor bits onto our zombies, which in theory would make them 3 exclusive micro zombies. I'm just going to go with a regular zombie, and for our main character, they're in some sort of scuba gear. I feel like we've seen this guy before. The orange legs, orange torso, maybe a hazmat suit by the lapel on the left hand side. So we're going to go with not a round 1x1 orange brick, but instead crack this in half, 3 round 1x1 studs. And there we have our minifigures, maybe like a trans blue helmet, but I think this definitely works for the minifigures present in the set, all 4 of them and the slime. Now we've got to be building the actual set. We'll build the entire thing on a 4x4 grey base plate, and like I said, there's a bit of lava off to one side. I would love to build that, you know, to the side of the wall, but it's in the same 4x4 block region, Lego block that is, 2x2 Minecraft bricks, 4x4 studs, that we have a wall. So instead of including it, I think I'm going to build a wall out on the edge and just add an orange slope next to it so that we know it's there. By the way, that orange cheese slope that I mentioned has to be translucent. It just has to be. 1x1 bricks are also going to be our friend for this MOC, because like I said, I want to get a play feature in the corner. And that play feature uses these 2x2 turntable elements. I think the best color for this, we've got blue, red, white, black. I think black's going to blend in better to the grays, though I would love to see something like this, maybe in a dark gray, not just for Minecraft, but also for, you know, the grey Star Wars ships. Maybe light grey would also be a fine addition. And the reason we're using a round turntable is in the corner of this set, we have the funnest play feature where you can spawn in a zombie. And I was hoping that it'd be able to pass the bricks here. What we might even need are, instead of some squared 1x1 bricks, some rounded 1x1 bricks. I don't know how many of these I have in dark grey, but whilst we're testing, let's whack a light grey one in there. It still doesn't seem to want to fit through. I'm going to make this work. If we can't fit it... what if we... I think I figured out how we can make it work. And that is by using a 1x1 round stud underneath. And I'm not sure how this in the long run is going to play, if this is going to be friendly with the future designs that I have in mind. But rather than using a squared off platform, actually the squared off platform might just fit around here. I was hoping to get a round one used. We might even need to introduce some snot bricks. This could complicate it, but if it plays out how I'm imagining, it's going to look awesome. I'm going to use 2 1x1 tiles to make sure we don't place any wall elements down to obstruct any of the mechanism we're trying to employ, and also we're going to have to heighten the base 1 plate further. So instead of 5 plates, it's going to be 6 plates tall. But you've seen the microbiomes in part 1. You know we've got the space for that. Let's build up the wall around. We can also get some nice green vines on the side, and we need space in the middle for our spawner, which for a zombie spawner, it's 1 block tall and it is black, but I don't just want to include a 1x1 black plate. At least not one that's only 1 tall. So maybe instead, do we even have a 2 plate tall black brick? The answer to that is no. No, we don't. All right then, 2 black 1x1 plates it is to get the spawner in the middle of the room. And we also need a chest that is right by some lava. I like the danger impact of that. So here's our closed chest, the same height as the spawner. We could even push the spawner to the edge so that we've got the chest out front, the spawner next door, and then this play feature in the corner. And that play feature is going to feature a disappearing zombie in the corner. Because we've got an extra 5 plates to work with, I'm going to tile off the 2 corners of the stone wall. And this should be able to turn even with a 1x2 tile hidden on top of these stone walls. But for that, we're going to need to grab our snot bricks. At this point, I feel like I need to add a lot more snot bricks to my collection. I have been using so many of these in MOCs. They're just so handy to get extra detail. The first snot brick we need is just a simple one, literally 1 stud on the side. That is all we're going to be using. And that's going to go on top of this brick. But first off, I'm going to need to find 2, maybe light grey 1x2 tiles. You see, in the set, either side of this function, they have used a lot of light grey bricks. I really like it. It breaks up the dark grey nature of usual Minecraft caves. And these 2 light bluish grey tiles will slot in, still allowing our round 2x2 brick to spin. Okay, I'm not sure about the legality of this. We're going to have to try this again once we've got... Oh, that does look quite good though. Once we've got a few other plates on top. But as you can see, the corner of the room is absent of any sort of zombie. And then when we spin the wall around, when it's locked in, the zombie magically appears. And I think that's a great play mechanism to add in. This second snot brick does have a stud on the other side. Come on, let's put you right there. And that other side stud is for the mossy vines that are included in the set. But rather than going with green, we're going to line this up to the biome next door, which is the creeping, the Pal Garden, and go with a nice sand green color. I like a sand green, and this video is basically dedicated to sand green. We've not connected it to the bottom because the vines do hang down, and I think we're ready for the next level. The next level is slightly smaller. We do have a 3x3 space here. We're going to want some sand and also about a 2x3 space of light grey. Technically only a 2.5x2 plate, but they don't exist. We could use a door frame. That's overcomplicating things. Let's stick with a 2x3 and a sandy 1x2. And this is what they should both look like. The 2x3 is going to go on the back and cover up our hidden rotating zombie disappearing act on the back, which does bump out a little bit. If there's any way that you know I can build this a little better, let me know in the comments and I'll be sure to add that before the final part. There's going to be a few more parts to this video. And then we've got the sand on top, and in the middle there's an archway with a gap in the middle. That's easy enough. We don't have to build anything there. And a ladder, which is going to be pretty difficult to build. There's a few ways we could do this. We could double side the ladder. We're already using a bit extra space on the other side. So we could stack a few jumper plates, maybe get 2 or 3 ladder steps. And in between each of these jumpers would be a 1x1 light bluish grey plate, just like so. That would represent the stone wall either side. It's quite a nice way of building ladders on a micro scale, because you do get them both sides. So maybe this is a ladder up and this is a ladder to drop further down into the cave next door. And on the very top, we do have a bit of sand, but let's build the other side up first. The other side, just above the sand, we have a little coal vein. So we'll represent that with a 1x1 black stud, and then just get a stone colored brick on the top before capping off our whole tower with just a 1x3. There is nothing supporting this sand. Hopefully the player knows that, otherwise they're going to collapse the whole cave in on itself under tons of sand. But we're still not done yet. On top there is 1 weed, 1 cactus, and a block of dirt. There's the 1x1 dirt, the little weed on the other side, and last but not least, the cactus. I don't know about you, but I feel like the cactus is missing something. There we go. Much better. Now the display is complete. Let's add our characters. We do have a crafting table on one of the levels, and we're missing the platform for the torch. But like with a lot of the other sets, the torches are way too small to be represented in a micro form, and the crafting table is going to turn out the exact same as the chest. So we've got our diver up on the top, or a hazmat suit. That makes sense, dealing with zombies. Zombie dungeon, the whole zombie plague doesn't take into effect in Minecraft, but they're still dangerous and you're not going to want any zombie germs. And then in the zombie spawner, we can add a zombie guard in the chest. We'll add a zombie back here as well, and then a slime up front and center, just so you can see all the characters, including that hidden appearing zombie that's hiding away just in the back. And to get a look at what that play feature would look like, now it's not there, you spin it around, and there's definitely a better way to get this done. There it is. Well, there it isn't, sorry. And then you spin it all the way around and the zombie magically appears. That is going to be so much fun in the actual play set. Again, if you've got any improvements for this build, let me know. But here we have the 2 micro builds of part 2. Don't forget to go check part 1 if you haven't already. I'll leave it on the end screen for you. I think these turned out so good, and they're gonna look even better side by side once we finish the other January waves for 2026. Well, for Minecraft at least, we're not doing all of them, not yet. Next up, we have the Nether and End Portal Journey, which is gonna be a fun one. I've got a few ideas for the Nether Portal, and then we also have the Wither Base, which has another Nether Portal, but the Wither Base is the biggest of the lot. And if you're enjoying this, don't forget to leave a like before you continue watching. Till next time, may the bricks be with you, always.